Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, welcome back again to the NPTEL online certification course on research methodology for planning and architectural studies. Dear friends, in our last 4 case studies, we have discussed mostly on the quantitative research approaches that researchers they have used, and mostly I have explained about the study from planning discipline. Now to bring a contrast, today we will be discussing our 5th case study in this series of quantitative research approach, and this time I will show you something from the hardcore architectural domain, so that you can also understand that how you can apply it in your study. Suppose you are pursuing some higher study, or you are now pursuing masters or PhD and doing something with the building and architecture. So this case study will definitely help you. So without any further delay, let us start today's lecture, lecture number 44, quantitative research case study 5. So like previous lectures also, we will try to understand the quantitative research method and its application with this case study, and we will summarize our understanding at the end of this particular lecture. Now here is the case study 5, which is titled The Evolution of Functional Organization in Vernacular Gyalrong Tibetan Houses, a Quantitative Investigation. So in the title itself, the authors they have mentioned that it is a quantifiable or maybe a quantitative study. The authors for this particular paper are Ding Ding and Jia Zhang. The name of the journal where they have published it is Journal of Asian Architecture and Building Engineering, which is also a very good journal in this domain of architecture and published by Tiller and Francis Group. Now the APA style citation of this paper is given. Along with that, like all previous case study, here also I have given you this particular QR code. So by scanning it, you can get access to this particular paper. Now let us understand that how author thought of this particular research, the study. The background of the study includes the vernacular architecture is symbolic, richly add-on, and a valuable research focus for architectural design, which is required for such kind of study. Traditional Tibetan dwellings are undergoing alternation in functional use and design due to contemporary issues. So this is not for this particular Tibetan typical houses. Everywhere we have seen certain changes. Now earlier probably the requirement were different. It was undoubtedly the requirement was little less. The people were not that many. So probably for that those kind of houses they were having some sort of open space along with those small unit, but over time family grows, there are certain paucity of land, etc., and then for that reason there are certain sort of increment happening with those structure. And earlier when it was just a single story building, now it is becoming 3 story, or it is having some horizontal expansion or vertical expansion. Even if it is not grown in volume or the size, but intended purpose that might have changed. So if you notice the uses of any such kind of dwelling units in rural area and same square feet in the urban area, you will find different sort of things, the furnitures and all. Maybe in rural area people also find certain, they require certain space where they can use that for certain activity, open field activity, or maybe just for drying of the crops they can spray it to some sort of terrace or maybe courtyard, which is not the case in the urban context. And whenever we talk about certain vernacular architecture and style, it is also there. Even if for the material and other thing they are just trying to change, they are making, because some of the things are not available to retrofit. So there are certain sort of changes. Now previous studies on Tibetan buildings focused on settlement, traditional technologies and architectural design, and emphasizing passive solar features. So this is something, whenever you come up with new idea or a study, you also need to showcase what has been done and where is the gap. So the authors, they have done exactly the same by stating all those things, that previous research often restricted to a small number of representative buildings. So here it is something like, whenever you conclude something, that all the buildings are like same, or all the buildings are like having some sort of functions. So whether it is the statement based on certain kind of experiment or study with 100 buildings or 1000 buildings, or it is 5000 buildings, result may vary. But definitely it is not the case that if in a particular study area you have 5000 houses, as I already mentioned in my previous lectures somewhere, that if you have 100 buildings and then if you want to study certain characteristics, if all 100 buildings are different to each other, you have to take all 100 buildings. But if in all 100 buildings they are of same prototype and similar orientation, or whatever aspect that you are going to measure, they are same, so maybe 1 out of 100 can be sufficient. So in this case, authors claim that the previous study, they just use certain smaller sample size, but in this case that is overcome, and then authors, they have done with a larger sample. Also authors identified that there were lack of quantitative study, mostly a qualitative study were performed. So this is some limitations and research gap that authors have identified. Insufficient scientific analysis of historical evolution, that how it transformed from a smaller unit and then the functional areas are changed, there were lack of study. So authors identified that gap and then approached to this particular study. Now hence the objective of the study are to record a fading tradition of vernacular architecture assisted by computer modeling and mathematical statistics. So in this case, definitely this is something where quantitative approach has been used. The second objective is to analyze the historical evolution of the functional organization of these houses, how the form that evolved over time. The third objective was to explore the reasons for this evolution, to give suggestion to the contemporary architectural designers, so that if possible they can retain some of the important aspect of those kind of old heritage or the vernacular aspect of these Tibetan dwelling units. Methodology for the study: quantitative investigation using computer aided method for Galrong house design, data collected through literature review, field investigation and expert interview as well, construction data obtained from published work, manual measurements, drawing and expert interviews as well. Now coming to the survey design, where author claim that previous study they have used very small sample. So here they have tried with 82 Tibetan block houses, and which are like constructed between 14th century to 2015. These cases are divided into two categories. Out of 82, 56 structures built before 21st century, which referred as old houses, and 26 which are built in 21st century, they are referred as new houses. The cases include only the main buildings in Tibetan courtyards, excluding the auxiliary structure on the same property. So, it is maybe, as I say, based on the requirement, people can augment some of the facility, they can extend it. So, it is the main building that the authors have considered. Now, data collection. So, after the field measurement and available information, the authors, they have used the BCS software, a green building software widely used in China based on the computer aided design platform. All plans are drawn. Focus on functional organization, presenting room types, wall dimensions, roof forms and main openings are computed, and then they are measured and they are developed. Data visualization achieved with 3D models generated automatically with those information. Convenient conversion from 2D drawing to 3D models facilitate the data extraction and analysis very easily, because it is not only a plane, now you have a volume to observe. Now, the rationale for the method they have used. So, BCS software, plans drawn using BCS software are widely used energy saving building design tool in China. So, they have used it. 3D model visualization, data represented through automatically generated 3D model for enhanced spatial understanding about the volume. Automated data extraction, original data extracted automatically, ensuring accuracy and efficiency. Advantages, it facilitates convenient conversion from 2D to 3D, improving the spatial comprehension and enabling efficient data extraction for systematic analysis. So, whenever you use certain software which can give you the accurate measurement, when you give certain input and you can see all those kind of other parameters, so it is very effective. Now, based on this analysis, now authors have reported the overall findings, as already they have mentioned that out of 82, 56 were old houses and then 26 were the new houses, and then they try to understand about the size that the built up. So, in this case it varies from 100 square meter to 500 square meter around, and mostly old houses are having lesser dimension. Obviously, their time maybe the need, the number of people living in a family were less, or the functions, the requirement that are also could be sufficed with this. In new houses, it is larger than 400 square meter, and if we try to understand the shape, the authors have identified three basic shapes. I-shaped buildings form was more frequent in old houses which were built before 21st century. U-shaped form is more commonly seen in the new houses, so that you can see. So, this is also a Sankey diagram which is representing the overall overlap of the sample and the frequency. L-shaped form is adopted equally in both the cases. There you can see that the number of buildings where this has been used. Now, I-shaped houses exhibit simple organization. So, you can see that typically the lower story, middle story and upper story, they have certain block. L-shaped houses often evolve from I-shaped ones, reflecting improved economic condition and providing a central communication space for the family. So, then it is something evolved with I shape, and then there is some sort of additional block added to create this L shape. U shaped houses features a central spatial connection and multiple spaces for communication and gathering, taking various form across different floors. So, here you can see that the addition of the toilet block then you have some other living room that you can have here. So this is something a good representation. The main purpose, see, if you want to know more about the this type of vernacular architecture and all, definitely you should go through this paper. But the purpose of citing this paper here to also understand how they have represented. So it's a very simple figure, but it says many things to us, that how different functions are plugged over time and U-shaped form, where you get some sort of you know uh, functions added over time for different floors. Now for that, they also have done certain sort of case studies. So here you can see how they have represented. So there are 3 cases which are from like all those linear type before 21st century, and then central type you have all those buildings which are constructed in 21st century, and these are their plans. So this figure focuses on main floors representing the primary living space with the highest daily resident traffic. Old houses exhibit simple plan layouts with linear activity routes resulting in cuboid building volume. So this kind of volume you can say. The new houses features diverse and flexible plan layouts incorporating central space like living room or terraces, from which activity routes radiate outwards to the bedroom. So here you can see that the all 4 plans are not same, and then there might be some sort of terrace which can be getting connected to different bedrooms and all, or else it can also have certain sort of living space, right? And then you have certain kind of organization of other spaces and activity spaces like the bedroom, toilet, dining, etc. The inclusion of central space in new houses contributes to varied building volumes, and because of that terrace you have no longer like a cuboid shape. So it is giving certain sort of elevations to the building as well. Now the historical reasons for evolution. So there are certain reasons that authors have identified, like increase in the number of bedrooms, increase in the number of toilets, decrease in storage spaces, decrease in corals, development of you can say that the cultural tourism, improvement in sanitary condition, elimination of defensive functions. So these are different sort of outcomes that you can say, and these are certain kind of phenomena that happened. The corals on the lowest floor served as defensive role, but as peace spread, defensive functions were generally and gradually eliminated. Currently the lowest floor is repurposed for living room, kitchen or mall shop. So even if now if you see in mixed land use type houses, that ground floor you have a shop and then you have residences. So those kind of things, it's something that where it says the elimination of the defensive functions, which can actually result in that decrease in the corals. Elimination of auxiliary rooms enhances sanitary condition, creating space for modern toilets. That is very much required, and that can improve the sanitary condition. Cultural tourism growth increases the demand for homestay in those locations. So for that, it is transforming many Tibetan houses into the guest house for space sharing among the multiple guests. So this is something another approach by which people can go visit as a tourist, and then we can use it. So for such kind of cases, alternation took place, so that whenever a guest will come, so will have certain sort of functions, some toilets and other things they were built which were not initially built. The purpose was different, to live in a family, but now it is when you offer it to a tourist, so there are certain alternation. So in the discussion also they have mentioned the design of Tibetan living spaces is no longer dominated by agricultural needs, like drying of the crops. They have the space where they can use it for such kind of activity, reflecting the shift in economic activities. In 21st century, the Gralong shifted focus to cultural tourism over agricultural production, reducing the need for space dedicated for drying and sorting of the harvested perishables. Rather, now it is focusing on providing some sort of basic amenities to the tourist. Block houses have repurposed terraces and overhanging corridors initially used for harvest drying. So, now it is used as terrace, some activity, etc. The transformation creates the spaces conducive for multiple families together, improving adaptation to the region's cold winter and cool summers. Coming to the conclusion, the shapes and functions of different block houses are basically identical. Social development have led to increase in number of bedrooms and toilets, separate toilets within the block. Over time, the area allocated for storage space and the corals has decreased for adjusting the new functions into it, from like to accommodate the tourist demand, tourism over the agricultural need. Historical reason for this evolution include the elimination of defensive functions, improved sanitary condition and the development of cultural tourism. Like that is something by which those kind of form has been changed. So, this is no doubt a good study where the computer aided design were used to visualize those functions and bring out those kind of variations in the functional plan of those Tibetan houses. Now, coming to the takeaway from this case study, the methodology is the authors they claim it is very unique and beneficial for both architectural practices and academic research to use it for some other context. It provides valuable insight for contemporary house design in a vernacular region where you can accommodate the need of present and also you retain the characteristics of the past. It enhances understanding of adaptive evolution of vernacular houses in the context of Tibet. So, now to summarize, here it is another set of quantification of the room space and all information through some sort of software, and some quantification has been done to understand the change in the functional form of those kind of dwelling units. So, this is definitely a good study and a particular case study focusing on architectural buildings, vernacular architecture. So, I hope you have enjoyed this lecture. If you have still some doubt, first of all, like I would request you to go through this paper. Then also if you have some questions to me, please do write in forum, I will be happy to answer. So, with that we just try to conclude this all case studies pertinent to the quantitative research approach. Now, in our next lecture, we will be discussing in brief about the qualitative research approach, its advantages, disadvantages, where to use it, different application area, and again similarly we will be taking another 5 such case studies where the authors they have adopted the qualitative research methods or the approach to frame their study, to conduct their study, and finally they could able to publish their work in those reputed journals. So, we will be discussing those in our subsequent lectures. So, thank you for joining. We will be meeting soon with our next lecture. Thank you.